talking about today is time and effort. So time cards, and if you don't have time cards, then letters of effort that happen after the fact. And so if you want to be thinking about that, and if you have any specific questions, we can discuss that and see if we can get your questions answered. I know that that's always something that comes up pretty often when I do site visits. So, okay. Hi, everyone. Ariana, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, I just wanted to do a sound check. Okay. All right, we'll go ahead and get started here. So thank you everyone for joining us. And I'm Sean Thompson, the Finance Director at the SBDC Lead Center in Arcata, California. And we're going to be going over the different types of funding that make up the SBDC grant. There's federal, there's cash match, program income, and then also covering time and effort reporting, which is how you're reporting the personnel time that's devoted to the grant. So this session will be recorded. If there's anyone in your organization that you want to participate in this who wasn't able to join us, and if you have questions during the session, there's a chat feature in Zoom, and we'll also break at certain points, and people will be unmuted by Ariana, and we can ask questions and have that time. So we will go ahead and get started. All right. So for the financial guidance regarding the SBDC program, there's a couple different documents that can be referenced, and one of them is the program announcement, and that can be found at sba.gov. This is referencing 2017, but it'll just be 2018, whichever the relevant year is, and you can find it there. So that's just for you to know that any of this information we're going over, you can always find it again if you need to reference more specifics at the SBA.gov website. Uniform guidance is also another place that you should be looking if you need to find information about the SBDC program and the segregation of federal funds, program income, cash match. You can get guidance about federal funds and cost match and program income as well. And then your host institution should have policies and procedures that you should be following. There's the federal funding guidelines of uniform guidance. There's the specific grant guidance of the from the SBA, and then there's your host institutional guidance. And so that's what I would be looking for when I'm reviewing quarterly invoices and doing site visits. Are those being followed? So federal expenditures are only for goods and services provided or received during the program year, which is January through December, so it's on a calendar year. These same rules apply for the cash match expenses and the in-kind donations. Sometimes I've had discussions with people, and there's been this discussion of, oh, but that's cash match, or oh, but that's in kind, as if it's different than the federal funds, and it needs to be thought of as the same. It's the same stringency, it's the same rules that apply, that the funds are part of a budget, that's the SBDC budget, and they need to be spent in accordance with that budget and with the same structure and rules as the federal funds. Program income means gross income earned by the recipient that is directly generated by a supported activity or earned as a result of the award. And this is clarifying that it wouldn't be something that would be a donation, for example. So it's earned income. Program income must be used to further the objective of the SBDC program and cannot be used for other purposes. So this would be one reason when I'm doing a site visit, I'm always asking, particularly at community colleges, if the program income balance has been carried forward into each year so that it's always being tracked and that it's not getting swept sometimes. That will happen at the end of a fiscal year, that funds will get swept, and we just want to make sure that they're always put aside for this specific purpose of the SBDC program. And record program income in a separate account. So there needs to be segregated accounting, that there needs to be a separate fund for the federal grant and then separate funds as required by the funder and host policies for cash match, and then also a separate fund for program income. And then carry over program income balance from one year to the next, and maintain control over your program income account so that the director always knows what's happening with the program income. The SBDC director is in control of the program income, so that the money wouldn't be diverted for a different purpose. Matching funds must be equal to 100% of the federal grant. Cost sharing or matching means the portion of project costs not paid by federal funds. So the cash match, the in-kind, and the waived indirect costs are what combined equal your match for your federal funds. So before we get on to time and effort, I just wanted to stop and see if there's any questions about kind of program income and what you would or wouldn't count for program income, and cash match, and what you would use cash match for, or what the rules are about that. Okay, if you think of some, yeah. Okay, if you think of oh, okay. All right, so we'll go ahead and go on to time and effort. So time and effort reporting requirements. The total effort is defined as whatever amount of time a person devotes to fulfilling his or her responsibilities. All employees charged to federal grants must maintain time and effort reporting. It does not matter what type of funding. Any employee funded with federal grants must document the time they spend working on the grant's objectives to demonstrate the amount budgeted and claimed is accurate. Time and effort reporting under the SBDC program is a method of documenting the work time devoted to the federally sponsored grant and is expressed as a percentage of professional activity devoted to the SBDC. Each SBDC recipient should develop a time and effort certification form, also known as an activity or an effort certification form, if the host institution does not have one. The effort percentage on the effort certification must total 100%. The total of the individual effort categories cannot be greater than 100% for each activity. And so this is something that I've talked to several centers about, is just making sure that even if someone works in a department that has an SBDC program and something else, some other grants that workforce or something else that makes up that department, you need to reflect that person's 100% activity of what they do when they're employed by that host. Okay, so we're going to look at some examples that I have. So this would be a timesheet that HSU uses currently. And so this is an hourly employee. And this is the easiest example that you would put the employee's name. This would be where the grant number would go in. So if it's SBA 2018, we have a certain fund number that we would put F220, and that would be SBA 2018. That would be what that represents. And we would have the pay period here that would pull down, and this is also another kind of iteration of the 220 code, for example, the project code. We have a department ID, which is 20095. So anything that is SBDC related, we have like 50 grants. They're all going to be under that department ID. Account is the activity. So is this person benefited or non-benefited? And then what their hourly rate is. And so then we would put down how many hours they work, if it was vacation hours or sick hours or a personal holiday or a campus holiday, and those will all total up. And then when we get down here, there's an employee signature, so they're certifying that they worked this time. And then there's an approved project signer. So if, for example, let's see, if this was someone in our office like Ann Johnson-Stromberg, so she could sign as the employee, and then the approved project signer could be myself or Kristen Johnson, our director. And then we would not need a one-up. However, if this was Kristen Johnson, who's the principal investigator for the SBDC grant, this was her time card, she could sign as the employee, she could sign as the project signer, but she would need a one-up who would be the executive director, Steve Karp, her boss, because she can't sign for her own paycheck, basically. She needs to have someone else also verify this. So let me show you a different example. And so someone with salary, we'll look at that. And so this would be actually for administrators in our department. So actually for me, Kristen, and Ann, we would be filling out the salaried forms. And so there'd be an employee name here. Again, the account number, which wouldn't really make sense. We would usually always, well, mostly be benefited. Project, so this is where the grant is going to go, F220, or I guess it'd be SBA 2018. This is where we'll go F220. This is where department, again, anything that ever falls under the SBDC umbrella. And so then the percentage of time would be, let's say I did half of my time was going to be towards the federal grant, and then half of my time is, well, part of my time is going to GoBiz, let's just say that. GoBiz, and that's going to be an S grant number, which I'm just going to make something up, but we have, it's a state grant, so it starts with an F instead of an S for state or an F for federal. D295, and we could say 0.05 of my time went to GoBiz, and I could do a third option of, I don't know, a different cash match option, and I could type that in if maybe it's a local grant that we have, and type that in, and so that would be a way to represent that. And I could capture all my time and have it add up to 100%, put down if I took any vacation time or sick, and sign it here. And again, even though I could sign for funds, I would need to either have Kristen or Steve sign because they're a one-up for me. And there's instructions about how to fill out the form behind it. So then a third option at HSU, if someone was to work on the state side, so I'm a foundation employee, but if someone was working and appointed to the state side chancellor's funds, and they were also working for the SBDC program, this would be the level of effort form. And I think this would apply for most community colleges. You would be filling out this form or something similar to this, that you're doing an after the fact statement of work, that if you get paid kind of by default, you don't fill out a time card, you just fill out if you're sick or taking vacation time. So the employee name, it goes here, the department, NorCal SBDC, the term, so this is done on a semester basis, and then the distribution of effort. So university effort and department work. So a project number would go here. So if that was federal funds or state funds or local funds, we would put that project there. And then documented work, if it's 85%, and then you follow over with this 85%, and then there's initials that are supposed to happen here and the date. So authorized changes, I guess those changes, okay. That would just be if there was an adjustment to it. And then, so that would be for the university effort, would be here. And then sponsored programs, which is what our grants are covered by, would be under this area. And you'd put the project numbers there. And then there's the option of sponsored programs direct pay, which there's that option too. So I guess the buyout option versus the direct pay option. And that's going to add up to 100%. So 85 and 15% is going to add up to 100% right there. So I can show you one more example. Let me see if I can find it quickly, that I just recently got from a site visit I did at Butte Glen Community College, which is one of our newer hosts, and they have a lot of federal grants, and it was nice to see a community college example. So here's Butte College, staff, time and management, effort reporting. So the name, the period covered, I guess an option of if part-time, indicate the percentage below. District employee, time and effort. So we have the account code structure here, unrestricted assignments, you'd have your chart field string here and percentages, grant funded assignments, and then cost sharing for the grant. And then have that add up to 100%. You'd have an employee signature, responsible official, which I think would be their supervisor in most instances. And then some instructions down here. So that was, that's all I had for today, is just going over kind of the differentiation between the funding types and time and effort, because I've gotten several questions about that recently. And, but I'm happy to, have questions and have discussions about any of this that people have. Okay. Well, I'm also in the office the rest of the afternoon if anyone wants to call or talk later. And my number is 707-826-3974. And
Sean,
if there's anything specific that comes up. Yeah.
It's Wayne.
Yeah.
How are you?
Good. Good, thanks.
Happy Wednesday.
Yeah.
Quick question. Will you send us a copy of this, please, or send it over to Scott Leslie?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we can compare what they use with the chamber versus what you need, and then we can adjust as we need to.
Yeah. No, that sounds good.
Second
Just
question.
the examples?
The whole, if you could send the whole thing over, we can kind of pick out which one would work best for the organization, how we want to pull it together for our reporting. Two of our people, Scott and Jessica, are 100%. Well, I can't say that because we did split part of them with a project out of Sacramento, so we've got to do some work there. The other question I had was, and I think you've answered this, but let's say we have somebody like a Safe Credit Union, and Safe Credit Union gives us $25,000 for the year, and then others give us match money also. And at the end of the year, we haven't spent the $25,000 that Safe Credit Union gave us.
Right.
But we're going to track that. We're going to know what we've used as match, who we've used it for match for, what we've used it for match for. And if we have some residual, that can be carried over to the next year, can't it?
Yeah.
Okay, good. That's what we thought. I understand now. I understand better with the program or the income from the SBDC's got to be or SBA rather. It's got to be spent this year. But if others want to give us more money, we're more than willing to take it.
Yeah. No, that's great. That's a great problem, quote unquote, to have. That it's good to have some reserves because then you're not having to plan so tightly every single calendar year.
Exactly. And I know Scott's working hard right now to do that, particularly for this year. So I just wanted to make sure we were cool there.
Yeah. Yeah. No, so that's great. The only stipulation is a lot of centers, and it might not be the case with you guys, and I think maybe it isn't, that a lot of centers have other cash match contracts that they are trying to manage all these deadlines. So they'll have a CDBG contract or these different contracts which they use as match, but they have certain periods of performance. So then it becomes a juggling match of, okay, this the SBDC program has a 12-month period of performance. My CDBG grant has a different period of performance that you have to spend down the grant funds in, and it can get a little crazy making, but you're welcome to, if you get donations, carry them over.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and I'm seeing Kristen's chat message that, I can send out the examples. That sounds good to everyone. Yeah. Okay, anything else? All right. Well, and again, and if you have kind of specific questions that you just want to ask me individually, that's fine too. Yeah, so we're wrapping up 2017 here. I'm going to be traveling next week to do site visits for the NorCal region that we hosted in 2017 to kind of close out that year. And then we're gearing up for 2018 first quarterly invoices and getting those prepped and ready to send out to you at the beginning of April. So yeah, that's what we're up to. But thank you for your time, and we'll see you next time. All right, bye-bye.